Why hello there, and welcome to another tank review. I'm Corny Swiss, and today we're looking at the Tiger II with the 105mm gun, rank 5 King Tiger. As with every review, if you want to see something in particular, there's going to be a fair number of clips in this review, but none of them are particularly long, assuming I don't change how I plan to do this. So there'll be all the timestamps below if you want to see something in particular, and I encourage you to go look and see if there's something you want to watch if you don't want to watch sort of the garage portion where we kind of break this tank down in here. And so yeah, off you go if you want to go watch something else. But let's get started. So this is the top of the line for the German heavy tanks. It's how would I describe it? It's basically this tank. It is basically, yeah. It is basically you take the Tiger II H and slap a 105mm gun on it and drop that 88mm gun. And it plays exactly the same. You know, I mean, as you would expect, all the German King Tigers all play basically the same. But yeah. So armor shouldn't be that much of a surprise. You have 180 at the front of the turret. I was looking over here and messed up. Let's start with the hull, just because I prefer starting with the hull. So 150mm on this front plate, 80 on the side, 80 on the rear. That's pretty standard for the German heavy tanks. I think that's what the let's see, 150, 80, 80, 150, 80, 80. Yeah, the only real thing that changes is the turret, and the turret doesn't change all that much. Turret armor, 180 at the front, 80 at the side, 80 at the rear. So very much so like the hull. And the armor, I don't know how I feel about it. This front plate is really, really tough. It's a really, really tough target. I haven't been penetrated through this front plate by T-54s, IS-4s. So I think the front plate is adequate. The turret, well, the thing that makes the front plate so good in my opinion is all this sloping. It's back sloped at a pretty good angle. The front of the turret is basically flat, right? Now it isn't big, but it's big enough. You know what I'm saying, for like a T-54 or an IS-4 or IS-3 even. And that's where I think this tank can struggle sometimes, is that, I mean, ideally you kind of want to angle the turret, but you kind of don't, because the side armor isn't that good. You know, it slopes off really hard like this to make the face of the tank as dangerous as possible. So really shooting here, sort of the shoulders or the cheeks of the tank, not the best idea. You can penetrate that with a high caliber gun, but most of the time it just bounces, especially off the top. This isn't like the Russian tanks where there's a weak plate at the top. Usually you'll just bounce. The most success you have is actually just shooting this thing in the face, just right here in on this box. But yeah, but the turret, that's the thing about the armor. It doesn't, on paper, it doesn't look all that good, but in some of the clips you're going to see that you're going to see the front plate perform, and to some degree the turret perform. I mean, usually when you get knocked down this thing, it's not from the front, it's from the sides, because the armor kind of brings up the next issue. This is a 68-ton tank. It's a very, very heavy tank. I mean, how heavy is the Jagdtiger? Jagdtiger's 75.2 tons. It's actually the same hull, just with wider tracks. Yeah, we can confirm. Yep, wider tracks. It's been in a big upper casement. So the hull is basically kind of the same, and it's just, it has a 700 horsepower engine at 3,000 RPM. I feel like it's underpowered. It doesn't move all that well. Turning is really hard. There's really nothing about this tank that's quick. Turret rotation speed of 6 degrees per second is painfully slow sometimes. I mean, you just cannot keep up with tanks that are moving quickly at medium to close range. It's just too hard. You have to turn the tank while you're doing it, and that takes away accuracy, which can be an issue because 18.7 second reload. It's actually like 20, I think 20 on the dot for this 105mm gun. It's fast. It's not slow. It's faster than the Russian heavy tanks, but it's slower than the T-54 if I'm not mistaken. Let's go pull up the T-54. Let's look at the reload rate. 16.3. I think that's stock, and you can get it lower. So you see what I mean? It's quick, but it's not quick enough to some degree. So since I've already started, let's continue on and talk about the gun. The gun is this 105mm Kwk L 68 with 50 rounds of ammunition, and honestly, the gun I think is really good. I really like the gun. It's annoying when you fire it, and you'll hear it in the replay because it just sounds so weak. But the gun packs a punch. I think I've said in previous videos, I think 100mm is a really good caliber in War Thunder ground forces, and this 105 just has great punch. It's accurate, and it has great muzzle velocity for its the two types of ammunition you're gonna be, well, three really, that you'll be firing from it. You have this APCR, which honestly you'll find yourself using, but oh, it's so hard because it's so expensive. It's 10 times more expensive than the upgraded AP. But when you start off, you have this Panzer or whatever it's called. It's some standard AP, 220mm penetration out to 150 at 10 meters and out to 150 at 2,000 meters. Not bad. It's certainly not bad. It's very similar to the T-54's penetration chart right there. So basically you get T-54 penetration with this gun. I mean, you have HE, but don't fire the HE out of this gun. It's not worth it. 900 meters per second though. Accurate HE. It's the same muzzle velocity as the standard AP. But I don't know why you'd fire the HE, honestly. So, and then when you get the upgraded AP, you get it's interesting because the muzzle velocity goes up 100 meters per second, 105 to be precise. Penetration goes up 20 at 10 meters, and maintains that penetration out to about 500 meters, and then it starts falling off. But you'll notice that the penetration falls off very slowly. You go 240, 240, 220, 200, 170, 170. And I think that's partly because of the caliber of the gun and the weight of the shell is now is greater, and that's true. You can just look. I mean, it's a kilogram and it's 1.6 kilograms heavier, but also it's a higher caliber gun. It'll maintain that kinetic energy over longer distances, which is nice. It's nice having a high-powered gun that has good penetration at range and doesn't lose that penetration. But then you'll come down here to the APCR. Obviously, it's a lighter shell because of just how the shell is designed. 280 penetration at 10 meters, 260 at 500, 190 at 2,000 meters. This APCR will everything Russian except T-54s will get melted by this ammunition. The shell is big enough so that if you hit them, if you penetrate, you're gonna knock something out, light them on fire. Like, I've lit T-54s countless times on fire with both this shell and this shell, firing at them from just about any range. Or you'll just straight up knock them out, or you'll damage their turret rings, both of them, or you'll kill their gunner driver. You'll wreck. T-54s get messed up by these two shells. At range, I prefer the APCR just because it's obviously the higher muzzle velocity, it's a little easier to aim, but then also it's almost a sure penetration. Whereas with the AP, it may not be, but it's usually adequate. But with the APCR, it just gets it done. However, 2,700 lines per shot, 270 lines per shot. That's why I have this as my main ammunition, but I carry way more APCR than I do AP just because of what I know I'm going to be facing. I'm going to be facing IS-4s and T-54s. And you kind of, when you talk about this tank, you have to also talk about the IS-4 because it is sort of the direct competition. And I have knocked out IS-4s with this tank. I've done it a few times, more than, I can't remember exactly how many times, but I've done it multiple times, and I've never been able to do it directly from the front. When I come across IS-4s from the front, I shoot them in the gun, and try and knock out their gun, and then get around on their flank or something like that, or just charge them and put a shot into their side. Because the side armor of the IS-4 is not adequate to deal with this gun, but the front still is. So that's kind of an issue, even with APCR, because of the sloping and the angling and whatever. But yeah. So, but T-54s from any range you can deal with. You can shoot them basically straight into the turret, like the front of the turret. Not if you go too high on the turret or too out wide, it'll bounce because just the angle is such. But usually T-54s aren't a problem for this tank. Now, but that's at range. T-54s up close are going to give you issues. You have this side armor that's not that good, and they are way more maneuverable. This thing is a three-legged pig when it comes to close quarter combat, so you have to avoid that at all costs. But I mean, it all comes back to, in my opinion, an underpowered engine. The max speed of 42 kilometers an hour. Yeah, on a good day, you can do 42. I think usually I get to about 38 on like a flat open ground, maybe a little bit of a decline, and to get a little more speed. But I don't think I've ever had this thing going 42. But it's just a really, really big machine. It's definitely a long-range sniper. The issue I think right now is you don't have that many long-range maps in the game. I mean, Kursk is one, but then you can use your mobility and things like that to get out on the flank of these guys. But either way, so kind of an overview. Armor from the front, not bad. The lower plate can be an issue, but the turret front can get it done. Sometimes it doesn't, but it's kind of, in a way, it's kind of small, especially at range. Most of the time they'll just hit you here, and good luck penetrating that. The front plate is good. The turret can be good. I try and angle it just like a little bit when I'm reloading, but I mean, if they hit you there, then they probably knock you out. But at least it's a small target. And I'm pretty sure if they hit either of these like cheeks, it's just gonna bounce. Because look at that angle. That's a really, really steep angle. That'd be tough to penetrate. But anyway, so armor from the front is decent. Armor from the sides and rear is the same, but it's bad. It's 80 millimeters and it's not sloped or angled at all. I mean, you have these side skirts, but it doesn't do you a whole lot of good. And but the gun is really, really good. I like the gun. I think it's good. And reload rate, not bad. I have a decent crew, 18.7 seconds. So it's not horrible, but it's faster than the Russian heavy tanks, but they also have a bigger caliber shells and more armor. So with that, let's jump into some replays. Alright, so we're starting off with a simulator replay. This is a short replay. It's only 4 minutes or so. And that'll be sort of a common theme for this review. I'm not gonna lie, you don't live that long. Even if you play really well. I mean, it's just, T-54 is just too strong. They can flank too easily. They can do just about anything too easily. I'm of the opinion that a poorly driven T-54 is just as potent as a well-driven Panther II, or even a well-driven King Tiger. But I mean, I mean, it's up for debate, obviously, but that's just my opinion. So, but I wanted to show this replay in particular because it shows that the tank, it shows more about the gun and that the gun is effective, but it also shows a limitation of this tank. This is a simulator battle on Carpathians, and we've actually spotted enemies up here. Just to tell you how this, because I stuck around after I died to watch how this battle unfolds. We get outflanked from the east, like big time, like 3 tanks, and just get run over. But when you play rank 5, you don't expect to win that much. I'll tell you that for free. But anyway, so there's a T-54 over here that we know about. So my first shot is always AP because I don't want to fire APCR unless I have to because of how expensive it is. But I know there's a T-54 up here. I want to be guaranteed of a turret penetration with at least, if I get the first shot off, I want to at least be sure my second shot is going to be a penetration. So, coming over here, there he is. Get the gun down, and I put one into him and hit his fuel tank, which lights him on fire. I think what actually happened was the shell like skipped, because I guess that happens. I don't know, but he's on fire and he's burning away happily. And he's actually going to kind of come over the hill and push down on me, but that's not going to be good for him because I'm loaded and I just planted one through the front of his turret. He might have burned down, but the hit definitely probably didn't feel all that good. So there's a T-54 dead. Now, there is a T-54 way behind us, which is so annoying. They're just everywhere. They just come out of the woodwork. It's so bad. But I'm gonna get hung up here on this wall. I don't know, because I'm dumb and I wasn't driving very well. I was trying to turn and deal with the T-54 that's now over there, but I get kind of hooked on the wall, which is annoying. It's gonna take me a few seconds here to figure out how to get off the damn thing. Get off the wall! Just gotta back up and just let my tank drop off. Alright, but now I'm gonna go. Now I just on the radar there's a IS-4 up over this hill, and I think he just fired. Yeah, he fired. So now I'm just gonna come up here, and I wasn't quite sure. I have APCR load. I wasn't quite sure where I was gonna shoot this guy, and then I just said, okay, I'm just gonna plant one right down his gun, and I damaged it. And his next shot's actually going to banana his gun, and even though it like registered, it sounded like it hit my tank. I think when you banana your gun, it actually doesn't do anything. So now right here, I know his gun's totally bananaed. I was trying to figure out where to shoot. I thought, okay, yeah, the front of the turret doesn't work. Right there, I should have just gone for that weak upper plate if I was, thinking a little more. But now I'm thinking, okay, it would have been best if he had started to repair. But I'm not that worried. The turret rotation is just so slow that I have to move the entire tank. And then there's a T-54 kind of sneaking up behind me. As soon as I lit him on fire, and I knew his gun is out, and he's on fire, I should have turned at this point to deal with the T-54. Because if the fire doesn't immediately go out, he probably doesn't have a repair or a fire extinguisher, and he just burns down anyway. And now I have to turn and deal with the T-54, and I can't. That's the limitations of this tank. It's slow. It's really slow. Here's well, not another because it's the first one. A realistic battle clip on Ash River that I wanted to show. Another short one. It's hard to get long clips, but especially in realistic. At this tier, the bombers are just too strong for both sides. Heavy tanks get targeted because it's one spawn. Tank destroyers, especially German ones, get targeted because it's one spawn. But I don't know, I'm coming over here to try and help out and try and secure this ridge, because there are going to be a lot of tanks up here. I'll tell you that for free. I think there was like a rock in the way right there. That's why that shot didn't connect. But I decided earlier that I was going to load APCR, because when I played this game, I was of the opinion that I couldn't be sure with AP to penetrate and wreck a T-54 and get a good solid hit into him. So I was using APCR. Kind of a good thing I did. It basically guarantees this penetration on the IS-4, which lights him on fire. So he's gonna burn. He's actually like backed up a little bit, but his tank, the side of his tank is still visible, which is plenty for this gun. This gun packs a punch. I pop him. There's an IS-3. I wish I hadn't fired at the IS-4, because that T-54, I'm going to stop the clip before he becomes involved, just because it's like kind of a waste of time. But there's an IS-3 right through the shoulder. He's dead. But that was just kind of show that this gun does have punch. Just knocked down an IS-4 and an IS-3. This gun, if given the right circumstances, will wreck the enemy team. Now, to tell you the long story of what happens here, maybe I'll just cut to when it actually happens. This T-54 is going to be a real pain. Basically what you missed is that I sat there for a while, someone tried to bomb me, and now I'm trying to get rid of this T-54. He just fired, so I'm like, okay, I gotta go quick. But he's fast enough where he can just run away. And there's a T-54 behind me as well that just showed up. Yeah, so that's not gonna be good for me. I missed that shot just because the shell was aimed right, and now I got hit. Now I'm gonna end up dying right here. There's nothing I can do. My gun's knocked out. Yeah, I'm toast. I don't know how he got my gun from behind, but whatever. Just thought you should see how it ended. Alright, so I think whenever you get Kursk with this tank, you should rejoice and count your lucky stars. I think Kursk is the one map where this tank kind of has a role that it can perform. On most maps, the fighting is just too close quarters. The Russian tanks are too maneuverable. It's just not. This tank needs on those maps. This King Tiger has to basically camp, and I don't like camping. I hate camping in tank games. I'd rather be running around and being aggressive, which is maybe why I struggle with this tank sometimes. But I know there's a couple T-54s out over here. A teammate is calling out positions of enemy tanks with because they went over to the other side of the ridge, and I think they're spotting all these guys to tell me so I can put effective shots in them. So that was an AP shell into the front of a T-54, and I killed his gunner, wounded his driver, did all kinds of stuff to him. I really messed him up, and I think I hit his turret drives as well. But he's actually going to be able to get below the hill. I gave it too much aim on that one. It bounced. I think it skipped off the top of his tank. But there's more T-54s out here. All told, I think there's 3. Because there's another one next to him, and there's going to be one way out to the east, which is eventually going to punch my ticket. But I decided to switch to armor piercing after this shell, because I saw the damage that the first armor piercing did, and I figured, okay, I can get behind that. If I get that type of hit every time I fire it, that's totally fine by me. So at this point, I'm just kind of waiting. I know there's another one here. He just popped up. He's a little closer, but I can't see him. So I go to back up, and lo and behold, there he is. My first shot goes in, sets him on fire. His first shot, I think, hit my upper plate and bounced and damaged my cannon barrel. You'll notice that I've angled my front plate to give me the best chance of bouncing his shot. And yep, he burns down, so that's nice. And just in time, the other T-54 has popped up. Or he's going to, rather. You can still barely see him. That's like the top of his machine gun, just sticking up over there. But nope, here he comes. I've got AP loaded, so I got to give it a little more elevation for a distance, but he stops moving. Bam. Punched his ticket. His shot comes in, doesn't do anything to me, and there's actually a T-54 right next to me that I had no idea was there. He just popped up, and he's going to punch my ticket, which is really, really annoying. But, you know, that's what you sign up for with this tank. You know, it's kind of what you've signed up for on these types of maps where you could be easily outflanked. So here's another realistic battle, on this time on Kuban. And I don't know, this was an interesting battle. I think I'll say that. I've noticed that this is how the way this is going to unfold is basically how most games on this map unfold. Most people, in my opinion, spawn on the northern side for the southern spawn, western spawn, whatever you want to call it. And people on the other spawn, or on the red team in this case, spawn in their like northernmost spawn, and we just go to town on each other. So that T-54 was having a bold life, really had bold life choices right there. I just put a shot into him, lit his fuel tanks up. So I wonder if he burns down. It's the thing is, on realistic, you really have to pay attention to everything because of how easy it is just to get bombed, which is so annoying. But bam, another fire on him. T-54s, if you penetrate, you can light on fire fairly regularly. And one of them just burned down. I don't know which one. But there is an IS-4 over there. So APCR is kind of necessary. I think from the sides, I mean, maybe not, but it's just... So there, okay. See that shell he just fired? I think that hit on the side of my turret. Like, it didn't hit the face. It hit the angled side, like the sort of the cheeks of the turret, and bounced. So I guess the cheeks are fine. The face can be an issue, except at range. But we're kind of in an awkward situation here. I know he's reloading, but I can't get effective shots into him. The best I could hope for is to knock out his gun. But he's kind of in a position where it doesn't really matter. He could back up and just repair. And also the IS-4 is durable as hell, so it doesn't matter. But I'm going to push forward and kind of get into this little place here. I kind of like this position, mainly because it provides good cover from all angles. And a tank with decent gun depression can use it. And can use the advantage that this little spot has. Gonna take a shot at an AI, gonna light him on fire. You know, AI don't carry fire extinguishers, so a lot of fires this game, just noticed. But I mean, ultimately the goal here is that we need to deal with the tanks on over here on this flank so we can sweep down. But it's difficult because IS-4s are really difficult to dig out, and the turret, man, freaking turret. It takes so long to just turn and get on target. So annoying. But there's a T-54. The other one got behind the cliff, and that shot just missed. But it's just, the turret, I think, is what really hampers this tank. I mean, the armor and the mobility as a whole, I can live with. The fact that the turret just doesn't turn, or doesn't feel like it turns, is really annoying. Especially when like Russian turrets turn much faster. But I think that shot went a little high and skipped off the top of his tank. But I mean, what you should take away from this is that the gun, if you give the gun a chance, this tank can be effective. The issue you run into is that, I mean, the tank as a whole isn't that effective. But I mean, if that shot was a little higher, I might have knocked out that IS-4. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. This tank is tough because the gun is really good in my opinion, but the way you have to play just isn't. And I'm trying to angle here because there's a T-54. Try to cover my lower plate. I think he just shot the face of my turret. Alright, so opinion time. What do I think of the Jagdtiger 105mm tank gun thing? Debatable. It's interesting. I think the gun is really good. Like really good. I think if this tank had T-54 armor, in the sense of it was a little shorter, hull was decent, and the turret was really strong. Actually, you know what? If the armor profile, like relative armor profile, was switched in the case where, let's say, you took the effective thickness of this front plate with all the sloping and made that the actual thickness of the turret, and then made this hull, left this hull like 150, this tank would be really strong. I think if this thing had a 800 or 900 horsepower engine, it would be really strong. But the 700 horsepower engine on the Jagdtiger and on this Jagdtiger just doesn't get it done. It's like outside of the gun, this tank isn't that good, in my opinion. I know people say, in terms of the rank 5s, it is the second worst because, well, in this Panther ausf, is by far the worst rank 5 German tank. It's just not very good at all. The Jagdtiger, I think, I'm torn. I ranked all these basically in a tie. After getting to play this, and after playing the Panther II and the Jagdtiger, they're all just, they all do basically the same thing. This is a long-range sniper. This wants to be a long-range sniper, and this has to be a long-range sniper. The issue is that of the maps, only one really lends itself to actual long-range sniping, and that's Kursk. You could argue Carpathians in some situations, but not often. And so when you look at other factors like mobility and, you know, gun performance, other things, I think my rankings of these tanks probably is as you see in this garage right here. It's definitely, I think, the Panther II first. It I don't know, it just has more mobility, so it can react quicker to changing circumstances. The reason I put this tank above the Jagdtiger is that this tank at least has a turret, and the gun I feel like is more useful. I've never had a lot of success with the Jagdtiger gun. I feel like the shells get eaten up too much by T-54 tracks or just what have you, and I think it's not as accurate at long range as I'd like. This 105mm, really accurate long range, it has excessive penetration at most ranges to deal with T-54 turrets. The Jagdtiger struggles with T-54 turrets. The Panther II less so, but I don't know. The issue you run into with both the Tiger II and the Jagdtiger is how horribly maneuverable they are. They're just not good. They're underpowered in the terms of the engine department, and they're just slow, lumbering beasts. But they're both tanks that if you can get set up with flank support and all the enemies ahead of you, you're going to wreck them. No problem. The issue is that's just not how it happens. I think to be a really, really effective tank in War Thunder Ground Forces, you need to be a very effective solo tank. What do I mean by that? For example, the IS-4. I think the IS-4 is the strongest tank in the game, primarily because it's very difficult to deal with, and the armor as a whole is just fantastic. It can be by itself and still get the job done. The T-54 is sort of the same way, but T-54s work best when they're in packs. The IS-4 can be by itself and be equally as effective as it is when it's with other tanks. T-54s in a one-on-one engagement, let's say at medium range, I think the this King Tiger, maybe the Jagdtiger, and maybe the Panther II might win. With an IS-4, not really. If you both fire, the IS-4 is less likely to be knocked out. I mean, from the front, the IS-4 I don't think can be knocked out as it stands in the game, except by a Jagdtiger at medium range. That top plate is just a really hard shot to make, and although I think all three of these tanks could make that shot, it's just tough, you know. But I don't know. I guess it's a tie between the King Tiger and the Jagdtiger, but you know the Panther F I think is definitely the worst, but the Panther II I think is the best. But this tank in particular, it's not good. If the T-54 wasn't in the game, I don't think it would be bad. Because the T-54 is really the wrench in all of rank 5. There's a reason people spam it. The mobility, the power of the gun, the rate of fire, and the spawns. The spawns I think are critical. Is why that tank gets spammed so much. IS-4s only get one spawn, so if you get caught in just an unlucky situation or you get bombed, you're toast. Whereas T-54, you can come out again. But I don't know, if the T-54 wasn't in the game, I think this King Tiger would be a lot better. I think if without the T-54, I think it would be better than the Jagdtiger just because of the rate of fire, and it could just punish more tanks and kill more tanks. But I don't know. It's okay, I guess. It's not I don't want to say it's bad because I don't think it is. It's just I mean, it's just like the Jagdtiger and the Panther II. It's held down by the fact that its sole competition basically out there is T-54s, and T-54s are just engineered to destroy tanks like this. It's a vehicle type that just doesn't have a real competitor on the German side at this point. I do believe that when we get American tanks and British tanks, I think we're going to definitely see a shift. I think to sort of balance it here and make tanks like the King Tiger more relevant, you got to add the E series, and you need one like super heavy armored tank. I'm talking like a Mouse or an E100. I mean, the Mouse could be doable. They did make one, but honestly, I would prefer the E100 just because it's slightly more mobile with equally impressive armor and side skirts on the side. Well, I guess the Mouse has side skirts as well. But they'd both be horrendously slow. You need a fast medium like a Leopard 1. But see, my main thing is if they're willing to go into 1950s, which is basically Korea era, with the Russians, they got to be willing to do that with the Americans and the British. And when those tanks come out of the game, the T-54 is going to get run for its money. It's going to be rough. But then they got to add something for the Germans. But I mean, I kind of went on a tangent there. Back to this tank. I think this tank isn't bad, but it's not the best, and it's similar to all the other tanks of this tier for the Germans. It's just completely outclassed by the T-54 and the IS-4. But as you saw in the replays, you can handle IS-4s in this tank. You can handle T-54s in this tank. The issue is that there's just too many of the little buggers. So, I don't know, take it as you will. It's worth researching, though, because I think eventually the game will change, and we'll see a very different battlefield in which it isn't 90-10, 80-20 Russian split in terms of victories. But anyway, I've been Corny Swiss. I hope you enjoyed the review. I hope you learned something. If you have any questions, leave a comment or whatever and let me know. I'm sorry this video is pretty long, though. So if you made it all the way to this far, you're a trooper. But so thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.